welcome to the second episode of EATpoque, the diet in the paintings of the Tang Dynasty. Before we start this episode, make sure you followed me on YouTube and watched the first episode of Tea, in which I talked about popular toppings you could put into your tea and beautiful porcelain. The online curation is provided by the National Palace Museum in Taipei and its generous open data. And you are welcome to cast a vote for me during 21st October till 4th November. That's enough about the competition, and now with me, Karmen Hsu, your host, on with the show. Today, we're having a sweet tooth. Yes, sweets. Here, I have prepared some common sweets that you can see everywhere in Taiwan, and they are my favorites. These are ice-dried prunes, sugar-glazed lemon slices, shanjia, and finally, nougats from my beloved auntie. For the first two, you can buy them in any convenience store, but for the shanjia, it's easier if you ask for it in a traditional herbal clinic. I, for one thing, have always had a craving for sweets. Anything with sugar is good. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have too many sweets. So during the Chinese New Year, when sweets were a big must to have for greeting the visitors, I couldn't be happier. I'd handpick all the sweets I wanted in the traditional market, where there were a splendid kinds of sugary goods, all wrapped in colorful and glittering wrappers, chocolate balls, Valentine's toffees, caramel and chocolate toffees, whistlers, prune in a melt lollipop, and so many more. It's hard for a kid to say no to sweets, we all know that, so it's especially fun for me to see the painting today. The Knick-Knack Peddler, painted by Su Han-chen during the Northern Song Dynasty. In the middle of the picture, we see the peddler, a middle-aged man loosely wrapped in a blue robe, wheeling a trolley full of knickknacks. There is also a much older man on the left, who seems hunched back due to the weight of the trolley. He could be the business partner of the peddler in blue robe. There are as many as 16 children around the two peddlers, and you can see one of them in the right bottom is grabbing one of the trinkets from the trolley. What amazes us today is the elaboration of all the knickknacks on the trolley. Detailedly depicted if zooming in the painting, we can see that there are boxes decorated with splendid wrappings and patterns, which could be makeup or spices for the women. Next to the boxes, we see that there are things that look like scrolls, which could be umbrellas made with oiled paper. On the edge of the trolley, above the grabby handchild, there are strings of household utensils, like dustpans made of bamboo. As it doesn't seem fancy enough, the peddlers are sticking tall bamboo sticks stringed with little lanterns, pendants, lucky charms, and lucky knots on the trolley. The sticks bend low because of all the trinkets, and they hang above the unhappy old peddler. Toys like bolangu and other groceries like conical hats and bamboo basins are stuffed in between one and another. It's a miracle that the trolley did not topple over. It wouldn't be hard to see how popular the peddlers must have been. They were like the genie, always having an extra spoon or a bucket for any housewife who urgently needed it. In Dongjing Menghua Lu, a book written by Meng Yuanlao, there is a passage that describes how the peddlers would attract the customers. Musicians playing on the ground, attracting women and children living in the neighborhood, and some would spread sweets and dried fruits, which is called 卖梅子 or 把街. The goods these peddlers sold weren't limited to household stuffs, but more like fresh seafood, services like shoe repairing and cutlery sharpening, and so many more. Although we don't see any spreading sweets in the painting by Su Han-chen here, it's not hard to fathom how the peddler in blue robe would have done, spreading a little treat, and a swarm of kids beaming with joy would come and beg their moms for this and that. Everything in the painting has given us a wonderful peek to the past. Now, what sweets would the peddler spread to the kids? it wouldn't be something as fancy as a nougat, but something cheaper, like dried prunes or small chunks of fruit, maybe coated with sugar. But let's stop here for a moment. Where did all the sugar come from? Just like tea, sweetened substances have been around in the Chinese diet for thousands of years. However, the taste hasn't always been the refined sugar cane as we now know. During the Han Dynasty, which is around 200 BC till 200 AD, there we had jaggery or 石蜜, which literally means rock nectar or rock honey in Mandarin. But jaggery wasn't originally produced in the mainland China, but an imported good from India. To make jaggery, one would put sugarcane juice under the sun or heat the juice on fire. The crystallized substance would be the jaggery. The method would still be seen and used, as we could see later documents that told the exact same thing. However, to note one thing is that the Chinese did not consume only jaggery. There were other forms of sweetened substances such as yi and tang, which by the Mandarin characters mean sweetened substances made from glutinous rice. These are all names for many sweets and desserts in the Song Dynasty. As time moved on, in the Tang Dynasty, which is around 618 till 907 AD, a more refined technique for sugar making once again came from India, the West. As we see in Tang Shangpo, written in 647 AD, that Tang Taizong, the then emperor, had ordered people to travel to Magadha to learn sugar refining technique. The sugar produced this time was described better quality than before. The quality maintained in the Song Dynasty, and this is the reason why the Song people could enjoy so lavishly the sweets, desserts, and snacks. Lots of food like 蜜饯, which means dried fruit, and 沙团, which could be bean buns, were loaded with sugar in order to be preserved much longer and to have more flavors. I couldn't help but mention this wonderful book for all the sweet tooth out there, Tang Shangpo, written by Wang Zhuo during the Song Dynasty. In this book, Wang Zhuo detailedly documented the history of the Chinese consuming sugar, how to plant good sugar canes, and most importantly, in scroll number 7, besides a few medicinal tips fine sugar could provide, he mentioned several treats made with sugar. I was drooling over one treat called Tang Shuangbing, which is a small treat made of ground walnuts or pine nuts, and mix them with fine sugar. Last, put the mixture in a mold and enjoyed it. To my imagination, it'd be so sweet that the dentists would shake their heads, but it does sound appealing to me. Books that documented everyday objects and customs were gaining importance and spotlight in the Song Dynasty, and besides Tang Shangpo, we see books like 茶谱, 香谱, and 荔枝谱 being written and published. In the Ming Dynasty, 天工开物, or the exploitations of the works of nature, is pressed. It is my humble gratefulness to these visioned pioneers, so this broadcast will be made on solid background, and we know more about our past. 点心, or dim sum, or 从食, for Chinese and Taiwanese people, means anything that you eat between the daily 3 formal regular meals. It could be bean buns or fried dough with sugar powder sprinkled, which could be sweet, but it could also be fried dumplings and steamed mo, which could be savory and salty. But talking about sweet treats, we see names that would make you drool. In 山家清贡, we see 樱桃煎, which could roughly described as honey cherry cake. In 东京梦华录, we see dried fruits like dates, plums, apples, and olives. There were also sugar-coated Chinese chestnuts, prune juice, herbal and spiced Chinese quince drink, and so many more. These are not something we see commonly in Taiwan now, but some are preserved in China today. Imagine living in the Song Dynasty, where you could take one bite of a bean paste bun on one hand and sipping on a bowl of black prune juice on the other hand, and stroll through the pavements among the night markets. How wonderful and filling time for all the gastronomists like me. Of course, having too many sweets is bad for your teeth. However, contradictory to our modern knowledge, in 本草纲目, it is noted that the sugar and jaggery are both included for medicinal use, like curing a tiger-bitten wound or coughing. It is not the only book that boasts the therapeutic effect. Mi Fu, a renowned calligrapher during the Song Dynasty, once wrote in his Tang Shangpo that read, "Sugar cures my throat. Such sweetness emits, and it is best if kept in the mouth." As we now know, there are throat candies like 川贝枇杷膏 for a sore throat. My only guess is that Mi Fu also sought for herbal treatment for his sore throat instead of just licking and gulping sugar. I wonder if Mi Fu had cavities or not. Although sugar isn't what our wholesome daily lives need, and the fact is it would actually harm our health in many ways, it's still a judgment of the prosperity of the society. With mature sugar-making industry, the prosperous Song Dynasty have left us a legacy of a kaleidoscopic record of sweets and desserts, and they appear in documents, books, diaries, and paintings like the knick-knack peddler we're seeing today. With so much detail displayed on the silk canvas, this is surely a masterpiece of folk art of the Song Dynasty. If you go on and search with the keyword 货郎 in the open data of the National Palace Museum, you would find a lot of work similar to our painting of the day. However, what you are looking at wasn't painted by Su Hanchen, despite the familiarity. According to a research and exhibition called 追索这派 in this March, this painting, also entitled The Knick-Knack Peddler, is in fact an imitation done by the later people, whom unfortunately we don't know the name. Well, you might think that an imitation doesn't bear any importance, but to be honest, this is the painting that inspired the later artists like Shen Wenying, an artist during the Ming Dynasty. Before we come to the end, let's pause at this flash store. Welcome to the 卖梅子 corner store, where you can take one more look at the 4 sweets I show you in the beginning of this episode. These are the closest sweets I could find in modern day life and that resemble the Song Dynasty version a lot. Never fathom that the Song Dynasty people could have nougat. I'm sure you'd be surprised, but actually in 东京梦华录, a sweet named 西川乳糖 is mentioned. Mix cow milk and sugar together and cook it until it sets. This was very popular in the Shu area. Another name for 西川乳糖would literally mean lion sweet, and this is in fact the first mass-produced product in Kaifeng, the then capital city of the northern Song Dynasty. Of course, the word nougat comes from French, but was originated in Italy, which involved honey, almond, and egg white. In Taiwan, nougat is made with milk powder, sugar, cream, and nuts. Some would add dried raspberries or roselle plants, but anyway, I love all of them. I'm hoping you would have a sweet time here with me today. I thank you all for joining and wish you a joyous day with all the sweets. Just remember to brush your teeth. I'll see you in the next episode where we talk about fruits.